She took her only daughter to her friend's wedding, only to see her billionaire ex, the father of her child, marrying that same friend. What happened next would break her heart. My dear, most beautiful family, do you want to see the most amazing thing on this earth? Take your phone, open the camera, and look at your smile. That smile is a masterpiece even angels would envy. Get ready, stay blessed, and prepare your heart. What you are about to hear is not just a story. It's full of shocking betrayal, big sacrifices, and a kind of love so rare it will leave you breathless. Some betrayals don't come quietly. They arrive with wealth, power, and careful planning, striking your heart like a sharp knife hidden in gold. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Alara Vance ruled her corner office on the 42nd floor of one of Manhattan's tallest buildings like a queen. The huge window showed the city below, a city that had watched her grow from a sad single mother into the CEO of Vance Strategic Solutions, a company that even the biggest Fortune 500 businesses respected. At 32, Alara had power most people spend their whole lives chasing. She had money, freedom, influence, and a reputation that opened any door. The sun shone on her polished desk, lighting up contracts worth millions and plans that could change entire industries. Her assistant had cleared her schedule because everyone knew not to bother Alara when she needed quiet time. Everything in her world was planned and controlled. That's why the ivory envelope sitting on her desk felt like a bomb about to explode. The envelope was from Seraphine Davenport, her old college roommate. They had shared a tiny dorm room at Columbia, telling each other dreams and secrets. Alara had thought their friendship was unbreakable until she learned some people collect friendships to use them later. The invitation was fancy, expensive, and carefully made, but it was the names that stopped Alara's heart: Seraphine Davenport and Caius Thorne. Caius Thorne. The name shocked her. He had been her first love, the man who had held her close when she was hurting. He was also the father of her child, and he was marrying her friend. "Mommy, why do you look like you saw a ghost?" asked Iris, her 5-year-old daughter, standing by the door. She was smart, beautiful, and confident, like she had been born knowing her place in the world. Alara forced her face to look calm. "Just business, sweetheart. How was school?" she asked. But in her mind, she was calculating everything. This was not a coincidence. Seraphine hadn't just accidentally met Caius. Everything had been planned. Alara remembered how, years ago, Seraphine had asked about Caius and her child, pretending to be curious. Now she realized it had been a careful plan to win Caius's heart and fortune. Seraphine had used their friendship like a weapon, turning everything Alara had shared into a way to take Caius from her. And the wedding invitation? It was not a friendly gesture. It was a victory parade. Seraphine wanted Alara to see what she had taken. The wedding would be at Rosecliff Estate, one of the most expensive places in the Northeast. Caius, who had once promised Alara forever, would now promise his life to someone else. Iris sat beside Alara, doing her homework. Even at 5, she was smart and focused like her father, even though she had never met him. "Will you be working late again tonight?" Iris asked. "No, sweetheart," Alara said. "Tonight, we are going to plan a very special trip." Alara had never avoided challenges. She had built her empire by facing every problem with strategy and determination. If Seraphine wanted to play games with her past, she would learn how strong Alara had become. The invitation said the wedding was in 2 weeks, enough time to prepare. Alara would go, but she would go as the powerful, confident woman she had become. She would bring Iris, who deserved to see her mother's strength, and she would watch Caius promise himself to another woman, while his real legacy sat quietly in the audience, unclaimed. "Are you angry, Mommy?" Iris asked. "No, sweetheart," Alara replied. "Angry queens make mistakes. Smart queens make people pay for trying to hurt them. Some castles are built with honor. Others are built with lies and stolen dreams. The morning of Seraphine Davenport's wedding was perfect. Rosecliff Estate stretched across 200 acres of beautiful gardens. Its tall Gothic-style buildings looked like something from a fairy tale. Everything showed that the bride marrying Caius Thorne had money, taste, and power. Alara arrived in a dark gray Bentley that whispered elegance. She had spent 2 weeks preparing for this moment, treating it like a business mission. Her dress was midnight blue silk, custom-made, elegant, and powerful. Every detail was planned to show she was confident and strong. Iris sat beside her, also dressed in a way that showed her grace and beauty. Her dark hair and bright eyes showed confidence beyond her years. "It looks like a fairy tale castle," Iris said, watching the circular driveway. "Fairy tales sometimes hide wolves," Alara replied, noticing everything carefully. The estate had flowers everywhere, sparkling chandeliers and candles that lit up the huge halls. The place was dazzling, designed to show off wealth and power. Alara walked through the crowd with confidence. People noticed her. Business leaders, tech bosses, and rich families all realized the famous CEO of Vance Strategic Solutions had arrived. People stopped talking and stared as she walked by. Heads turned because Alara Vance had a way of drawing attention without even trying. Whispered voices followed her like tiny clouds in the air. "Alara Vance is here," someone said quietly behind her. The voice sounded a mix of respect and fear, which Alara was used to hearing. Another voice added, "I heard she's going to start working in Asia next, and her consulting firm just got a really big company, the Viridian Group." They didn't realize how funny it was. They thought she was untouchable, and maybe she was. Iris, Alara's little daughter, noticed everything. She had her mother's smart mind and could see details most grown-ups missed. She knew that today it wasn't just about fancy dresses and flowers. Her mother had said they were going to an old friend's wedding, but Iris could feel that something bigger was happening, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. "Why is everyone looking at us?" Iris asked as they found their seats in the front row. She whispered so only Alara could hear. "Because queens are interesting to watch," Alara said calmly. She sat down like a queen, making even her expensive clothes look like something royal. "People want to see how we act, how we react, and if we're really worthy of the power we have." The seating was planned carefully. Alara could see both the altar and the door. She was surrounded by very important people, big business leaders, famous media people, and social stars whose approval meant a lot. She recognized the men and women who could make or break companies with their decisions. "Look at all the flowers," Iris whispered. Her brain immediately tried to count them. "There must be thousands of roses." "Yes, probably," Alara said, thinking about how much money had gone into the flowers. "Your college could be paid for with the cost of these flowers alone." But Alara wasn't just looking at flowers. She was watching people. She studied the guest list, noticing connections and patterns that others would miss. Every person at this wedding had a purpose for the bride, Seraphine Davenport. Every invitation helped Seraphine climb higher in her social and business world. The music started. It was fancy, classical music, chosen more to look important than to sound beautiful. Everyone stood up, ready to see the wedding party. Alara stayed seated a moment longer than everyone else, showing she didn't follow the crowd. When she finally stood, she did it with grace, moving in her own time. Iris copied her, moving like her mother without even thinking about it. "Are you excited to see the bride?" Iris asked, curious like a 5-year-old always is. "I want to see how well she can perform," Alara answered softly. Her words had a hidden meaning that Iris didn't understand. Alara had learned to watch people carefully, and today she would watch how Seraphine acted after all her practice. The music grew louder. Everyone waited to see Seraphine Davenport, who was about to become Mrs. Caius Thorne. The crowd buzzed with excitement. Cameras were hidden in the room to catch every moment, so no one would miss it. But Alara wasn't just watching the ceremony. She was waiting for what would happen later. Seraphine had spent 3 years preparing for this day. Alara had spent the last 2 weeks planning to ruin everything Seraphine had built with lies. Today is the wedding of the century, Alara whispered to herself. But tomorrow, we start the divorce of the millennium. She wondered if Seraphine would still smile when she realized what was coming. Some men are conquered by armies. Others are conquered by women who study their weaknesses carefully, like a chess player planning checkmate many moves ahead. When Caius Thorne walked to the altar, every woman in the room felt his presence. He was tall, strong, and successful. At 35, he looked perfect. Even smart women forgot themselves for a moment. His tuxedo was made to fit him perfectly. But Alara could see past the perfect looks. She saw the man she had once loved. Her heart ached with feelings she had kept hidden for 5 years. Success had made Caius a billionaire, someone who could control any room he entered. His dark hair had silver streaks now, giving him a serious and important look. His face was sharp and confident, shaped by stress and big decisions. Still, something was missing. His eyes, the same brilliant blue eyes that had looked at her so tenderly years ago, now seemed distant. He moved through the ceremony like a robot, doing what was expected, but not really feeling it. When their eyes met, it was like time stopped. The years melted away, and Alara saw the man she had loved at 27. Caius recognized her too. For a few seconds, his perfect composure cracked. He looked confused, sad, and maybe even regretful. His hand went to his chest, a gesture Alara remembered from when they were young and in love. For a moment, the billionaire disappeared, and the man she loved was there instead. "Mommy," Iris whispered, "why does that man look sad at his own wedding?" Alara realized her daughter had noticed something everyone else had missed. Caius Thorne looked unhappy. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and he kept looking at Alara and Iris. "Some people make choices that look perfect from the outside," Alara said quietly, just for Iris. The music reached its loudest point. Everyone stood. Alara stayed for a few heartbeats longer, showing she didn't follow the crowd. When she stood, it was with grace, moving in her own time. Seraphine Davenport appeared at the entrance. She looked like a dream come true. Her gown was huge and elegant, made of silk and lace. The long train needed 3 helpers to carry it. Her veil was expensive, and the diamonds on her neck and wrists sparkled. But Alara saw something else. Seraphine's smile hid her true feelings. She wasn't overwhelmed with love or happiness. She looked like a hunter proud of her victory. Everything was planned perfectly. The way she walked, smiled, and moved. She acknowledged important people, smiled at the cameras, and acted like a queen. When Seraphine's eyes met Alara's, her mask slipped for a moment. Alara saw her true joy, winning over Alara, showing off her success, and planning to humiliate her former friend. This wedding wasn't about love. It was about control and power. "She's very pretty," Iris said, like she was just stating a fact. "Pretty on the outside, not always on the inside," Alara replied, her voice strong like it was in the boardroom. Weakness meant danger, and Alara knew how to protect herself. The wedding went perfectly, just like a fairy tale. Every word, every gesture, and every moment had been planned carefully. It was clear that money could buy anything, including a flawless ceremony. The person leading the wedding spoke very well, like someone who had done hundreds of fancy weddings for rich people. But Alara wasn't listening to him. She was watching Leaf. She was studying how he moved, how he spoke, and what he said, just like she did when she worked in big companies and solved tough problems. But Leaf didn't sound like the man she once knew. His voice was calm and serious, not full of love and excitement like it used to be. His wedding promises didn't sound like heartfelt vows. They sounded like business deals. The man who once talked about their future with so much passion now sounded like he was just finishing a task he had to do. "Do you, Leaf, take Seraphine to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the person asked loudly. "I do," Leif said. but his voice was flat. It had no warmth, no happiness, like someone reading numbers in a business report instead of saying words full of love. Alara noticed how different he was from the man she had loved. The man who once promised her the world now seemed distant and cold. Seraphine smiled, proud and happy. But even her excitement couldn't hide the truth. She had won the man she wanted, but he wasn't truly there in his heart. Their kiss lasted only as long as the photographers needed to take pictures. Leaf's body and face showed he was only doing what was expected, not what he truly felt. When the newlyweds turned to face the guests, Leaf's eyes kept searching. He looked straight at Alara and their daughter. There was a question in his gaze, but he couldn't say it out loud. The irony was cruel. Seraphine had achieved everything she wanted, but it didn't feel real because the man she wanted most was emotionally far away. She had won a prize, but it was broken already. "Are we going to talk to them?" Iris asked quietly as people started moving toward the reception. Alara looked at her daughter with calm confidence. "Not yet," she said. "First, we let them enjoy their moment. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people think they've won before they see the cost of their victory." The reception hall looked like a palace. Gold and crystal shone everywhere. Alara moved gracefully through the crowd. People noticed her and respected her. Powerful business people came to talk to her, each pretending to chat but really thinking about deals and alliances. "Alara, you look amazing," said Geneva Sterling, a very important woman. "That dress is so beautiful." "Thank you," Alara said simply, like she always did. She made everything she wore look special. People in their world noticed these things. Iris stayed close to her mother, watching and learning. Even at 5 years old, she understood things most adults didn't. People admired her intelligence and her calm way of carrying herself. "She's beautiful," Geneva said to Alara. "What a smart and expressive little girl." Alara smiled slightly. "She has her father's eyes." Everyone in the room knew about Leaf Grosvenor's bright, intelligent blue eyes. Across the room, Leaf stood with his new wife, smiling and answering people politely. But his attention kept drifting. His eyes searched the room until they found Alara and Iris. "Why is he looking at us instead of his wife?" Iris asked quietly, noticing what adults missed. Alara explained softly, "Sometimes people realize they made the wrong choice, even on the most important day of their life. Leaf is seeing the truth he ignored for 5 years." Around them, guests continued talking and laughing. Leaders from technology, finance, and media were all there. Everyone who mattered had come to see Seraphine rise from nothing to someone important. A familiar voice called out, "Alara!" It was Alastair Davenport, Seraphine's father. He walked carefully, showing respect. He was a powerful man who ran a big company and knew how to deal with influential people. "Congratulations on Seraphine's wedding. You must be very proud," Alara said politely. "I am, but I'm surprised to see you here." "Seraphine said you were friends in college long ago," Alastair said. "Old friendships come back at interesting times," Alara replied. Her words had many layers, and Alastair would think about them later. Alastair looked at Iris. "And this must be your daughter." "She's lovely. What's her name?" "I'm 5 years old, and I go to Brookfield Academy," Iris said confidently. The school was very famous for teaching children of important people. Alastair understood right away that Alara had arranged a great future for her daughter. "That's impressive," he said with respect. "One of the best schools in the country." As they spoke, Leaf came toward them. He walked quickly, his face serious. Seraphine was busy talking to other guests, enjoying the attention she had always wanted. "Excuse me," Leaf said, stopping near Alara. "Alastair, I hope you don't mind if I take Mrs. Vance for a moment. We have some business to discuss." Everyone knew this wasn't really about business. It was a way to avoid awkward conversations. "Of course," Alastair said politely, stepping back. "Mrs. Vance, it was a pleasure. Maybe we can talk later." Now Alara faced Leaf for the first time in 5 years. Their daughter stood between them, a living reminder of everything lost and gained in their separation. Alara, Leaf said, almost like a prayer. His voice carried 5 years of feelings he had kept inside. I had no idea you would be here. Seraphine never mentioned it. I'm sure she didn't, Alara replied calmly. Her voice was cold, strong, and confident. Your wife only shares what she wants to share. His eyes fell on Iris, and Alara saw something change in him. All of his calm, happy feelings for his wedding disappeared in an instant. It was clear to him, clear as day. The little girl in front of him looked exactly like him. Her eyes, her chin, even the way she carried herself. Everything about her told him the truth he had never expected. My God, he whispered, his voice barely louder than the sounds of the party around them. She's your daughter, Alara said quietly but sharply. Her words cut through 5 years of secrets and silence like a knife. Her name is Iris. She's 5 years old. She's never asked about her father because I told her some people aren't worth waiting for. Caius stared at her, frozen. The truth hit him like lightning. His face showed shock, confusion, and fear all at once. He couldn't believe what he was seeing, his daughter right in front of him. He whispered, his voice shaking, Please, please, let me explain. I didn't know. If I had known, I would never have left. I would have stayed. I would have fought for us. Alara watched him, calm and strong, like a scientist studying a problem. She had spent 5 years protecting her daughter and herself. She had built walls that no one could break. You would have stayed? She asked, her voice cold and firm. How convenient that you suddenly want to be a father at your wedding to another woman. How touching that fatherhood is important now, when you never cared before. Caius's desperation grew as he realized her response was icy and unmoving. He had thought she would be angry or sad. He had thought he could fix things with words, but this was different. Alara's calm, strong stance told him he was facing a wall that could not be broken by tears or pleading. I was tricked, he said quickly. Seraphine lied to me. She said you didn't want me in your life. She said contacting you would hurt everyone. I believed her. I didn't know. Poor Caius, Alara replied, her voice sharp and full of controlled anger. So easily fooled by a woman with a clever mind, so weak against lies. What does that say about your judgment? Your intelligence? Are you really ready to be around a child? Iris stayed close to her mother, watching quietly. She didn't fully understand everything, but she could feel that something serious was happening. She grabbed Alara's hand. Mommy, she said softly, why is the man crying at his own wedding? Caius felt the truth of her words. He was crying at his own wedding. He had a daughter he didn't know about, while celebrating a life he thought was perfect. Sometimes, Alara said to Iris, speaking carefully so Caius could hear too, people make choices that trap them in situations they didn't want. Sometimes they realize too late that the life they built for themselves isn't what they hoped for. Caius dropped to his knees on the grass, trying to meet his daughter's eyes. He wanted to connect, to reach out to her. But Alara stepped between them, protecting her child. Don't, she said firmly, her voice strong like a lioness guarding her cub. Don't try to insert yourself into her life now. You think you can show up at your wedding and claim rights to a child you left before she was even born? I didn't abandon her, Caius shouted, his voice full of pain. I didn't know she existed. How can I be blamed for something I never knew about? Alara's voice was cold and precise. A real father would have made sure. A real partner would have stayed in touch long enough to see the consequences. You chose the easy way, abandonment, while I faced every hard part alone. Caius's heart ached. He tried again. I can change. I can be the father she deserves. I can give her everything she wants. I have money, power, everything she could need. Alara shook her head slowly. She already has everything she needs. A mother who loves her, a home where she is safe, and a life full of support. What can you give her except confusion and pain? Caius felt empty. He realized he was thinking of himself, not his daughter. She's my daughter too, he said finally. I have rights. The courts would recognize me. I can provide for her financially. Alara's face turned icy with anger. Her voice was quiet but dangerous. Try it, she said. See what happens when you try to threaten a mother who has spent 5 years protecting her child. See what happens when you underestimate me. Caius stepped back, afraid. He now understood the power of the woman in front of him. Alara wasn't the scared girl he left years ago. She had turned pain into strength and would defend her daughter at any cost. Come, Iris, Alara said, taking her daughter's hand. We've spent enough time with strangers. Let's go celebrate the bride's beautiful wedding. As they walked away, leaving Caius kneeling in the grass, Alara felt calm satisfaction. She had taught him the first lesson. Never underestimate a mother protecting her child. But in the back of her mind, she wondered, would her strong walls be enough to stop the desperate billionaire trying to win back the daughter he had never known? Wait, the story isn't over. A beautiful part 2 will be uploaded tomorrow. If you want to see part 2, like this video, comment I want part 2 and subscribe.